If you are thinking of relocating to Charlotte, North Carolina, you're probably really excited. It is one of the larger metro areas in the United States and it is growing, but you're also probably really overwhelmed and your head might be spinning a little bit. I know mine was when we relocated here to Charlotte. So if that's you, grab a pen and paper, settle in, get comfy. We're gonna cover all things Charlotte, North Carolina, from the traffic, the commute, to where you should live, to the good restaurants, to the sport teams, to what life might be like. All things Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Brandy Reinschmidt. I'm a local realtor here. My husband and I relocated to Charlotte about 8 years ago, and this is my YouTube channel, Discover Charlotte, where we help you learn everything there is to know about Charlotte, whether you're living in it or thinking of moving to it. So I too relocated to Charlotte, and I want to share what that looked like for me and the challenges that I had with it and my first thoughts, because you might find it kind of relatable. I don't know. My husband and I have been here for 8 years now. So when we first moved here, we had originally from Florida. I just kind of wanted a change of scenery. I had no rhyme or reason to want to leave Florida. I just wanted a change, and that is what I did know. I knew I wanted to be in a city, but at this time I was a broke college student, so I couldn't afford a city like Chicago or New York. And I had spent a summer up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, I know, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Don't knock it until you've tried it. Long story out of that, I had spent a summer up there previously and I absolutely loved it. So fast forward, my husband and I moved up there, and I know if you're thinking Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you're probably thinking of one thing, ew. And it's probably the weather. You're probably going straight to the weather of gloomy and gray and snow and cold, and you would not be wrong. You would not be wrong. The city is an amazing city, but being from Florida and only having experienced a summer up in Pittsburgh, the weather was something I was not ready for. And I'll tell you what, I am not equipped to handle. The people who live in the north, they are built to handle the north. They are built for those winters. And I'll tell you what, I am not that. We were up there for just over a year. I mean, literally, it was like a year and a week that we made it. But my husband, who was in the golf course industry at the time, we sat down and we talked, and he wanted to start a business. He wanted to start a turf management business. So obviously we can't grow turf in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that led us to looking in states that are a little bit further south. While we loved the city of Pittsburgh, we knew that we would never put roots down there and settle down there. So even though we were only there for a year, I was open to exploring different areas at that time. With all the statistics, economically speaking and weather speaking, Charlotte was the main contender for where that type of business would do well with the cost of living, with the economy, with the needs. So we came down to Charlotte. Luckily enough for us, we had a friend that did a similar transport from Florida to Pittsburgh, and then her family moved down to Charlotte. So we came to visit for Charlotte. This was 7 years ago. And where we stayed was a neighborhood called Villa Heights. This is a neighborhood right outside of very popular neighborhoods called Plaza Midwood and Noda. Except this was 7 years ago. They were not what they are now. Charlotte has been going through a major gentrification process in these kind of urban neighborhoods. And at this time, it had not yet really reached that particular area. So with all of that said, my first impression of Charlotte was not great. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I did not care for it. The city was clean, like the uptown part was clean, but we're not really uptown living people. Like, we go for sporting events, we'll go out to dinner. But in general, how the city part felt or looked wasn't a huge priority to me. I wanted to know, like, where am I gonna be living? What does that look like? So the areas that I was seeing around there, I was just not really impressed with at the time. You know, then we drove through places like South Park and down in South Charlotte, where they were beautiful, but the prices were untouchable for us. So I was a little split. I'm like, you know, I wasn't super pumped about it. There was nothing here that really just made me like, boom. First impressions are everything is what I can say. So we spent a little over a week here. We explored around, and we just decided that, you know what, for where we're at in our life, for what we want to accomplish, Charlotte makes sense. Now, my husband had a completely different opinion on it. While he also didn't care for the particular area that we stayed in at the time, he overall loved Charlotte. So I just want to highlight that, because I just want to say, like, two people can have two totally different experiences while physically experiencing the same thing. They can come out with two completely different takeaways from it. So my husband loved it. You know, he ran the numbers, cost of living, and what it would cost to start businesses, and what that would look like for us for the first year, for the first couple years, and it all made sense. And then the weather here is obviously, it's beautiful. It's early February right now, and I'm looking outside and it's sunny. It's a little chilly right now, but it's sunny and just warm, compared to other places, I should say. And then with our families being from, from Florida, most of them are in Florida, some are up in Pennsylvania, some are over in Iowa, so they're kind of spread out. We knew that we needed a place that would be convenient to travel to. So Charlotte made sense. So fast forward, here we are. We did end up relocating to Charlotte. The move here was really easy. So when you're doing a cross-country move, you have trucks and everything, like finding a truck to get you from A to B, we drove it ourselves. So we didn't have to find a company, but all the moving companies, Charlotte is a big area, so it's always on the list of cities that moving companies will deliver to. But finding a rental truck and rental cars and everything to go one way to the other was really, really easy. Getting moving companies to help us load and unload was really easy to schedule things because we have a ton of options here. So we found the moving process itself to be very easy. It was easy to get our utilities turned on, where when I was up in Pittsburgh, I actually had an exact opposite experience. For example, when we were driving there, I still needed a computer. I was still doing my education online, and for some reason, I thought I scheduled the internet to come on the following weekend. I apparently had it scheduled for the next morning, and we were not going to be in town yet. And I tried moving it, and I said, well, I'm not even going to be there. Like, we're physically driving. So we ended up having to drive straight through because the earliest time that they could get us in to hook up our internet was 5 weeks out. So that was an option. So we ended up having to drive straight through, and the internet company literally beat me to our apartment that we were renting up there by about 10 minutes. So we didn't have that experience moving here. We did have to move a couple things around just because nothing ever goes as planned when you're moving, that. But utilities were easy, and anything that you need while moving was very easy. There's tons of locations where you can pick up and drop off a moving truck if you need, pick up and drop off moving cars if you need. Some companies will even come get it for you. So we overall had a really pleasant moving experience. Driving the truck, we have wider roads than a lot of other areas. I figured that out even for a city. So driving the moving truck wasn't like as stressful as it was in other locations. So it was fine. We didn't have to plan around like, oh, are we going to get snowed in with this moving truck, or we're going to have ice. So it was really a convenient move and an easy process of moving. So that is my relocation story here. You might be able to relate to it. As you can see, like, we had challenges as well. There's no move that ever goes off without a hitch. So you might be asking yourself, why Charlotte? Charlotte consistently ranks as one of the top places to live, according to Forbes.com, Zillow, a ton of different business journals. We're constantly making the top 10 list, the top cities to relocate to, the top job markets, you name it. Charlotte is consistently named as one of the top whatever it is you're looking for. And that's because of multiple things. The actual Charlotte population is just under 1 million. So we are North Carolina's biggest city. We have a ton of job opportunities, from tech industries to banking, financial institutes, to medical healthcare. We have headquarters here such as BB&T, Bank of America, Honeywell, Lowe's. We have a ton of large corporations here. We also have leading healthcare systems. Novant and Atrium are our two top employers here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So no matter what your field is, whether you're seasoned in your career, or you're fresh out of college, or you're looking to be an entrepreneur, or you're looking to dive into something different, we've got startup companies, we've got headquarters, we've got medical, tech, financial, you name it. We are listed right behind New York as the #2 financial spot here. We also have an amazing airport here. This was huge when we were looking at where to relocate to. We love to travel, whether it's for family or for fun or for work. So having a direct international airport close by was huge to us. We have Charlotte Douglas International Airport, which is an American airline hub. So you can get pretty direct flights to most states. You get a handful of direct international flights. It really is easy. They're currently going under a major expansion. So while I already think it's a really good airport, it's clean, it's got a lot of kind of like activities to do, or like restaurants to go to in case you have a really long layover, or you happen to get there too early and you need to kill time, whatever that looks like. The airport's really good, and they're doing an expansion right now, so it's only going to get even better. A lot of states are relocating here to Charlotte. Our national cost of living is actually lower than your national average. So I just put in San Diego here because a lot of people relocate over here from California, but you can see just the differences, and this is just home prices. Charlotte is the black line here. The United States is the orange line, so it's pretty consistent with the national average. But then you got places like San Francisco up here, and it's quite easy to see why they might want to relocate. So this is a really cool tool on redfin.com. You can just put your city in here and see what that looks like in comparison. But we're, on average, we are lower than the national average, and our unemployment rates are actually lower as well. So another really cool tool is if you go on payscale.com, you can type in the city that you currently live in or a city that you're maybe comparing to, if you're between two different factors. I put in, again, Seattle, Washington. That's another really common relocation state. People leaving Washington and moving to North Carolina is really, really popular. So you can see the cost of living is 53% higher. You would need to earn a 76,000. So like if I make 50,000 in Charlotte, I need to make 76,000 in Seattle, Washington. And here they break it down for you, like cost of housing, utilities, transportation, groceries. So you can see most cities, of course, there's going to be like smaller towns, like if you put maybe a place in Alabama in, or a smaller town in Tennessee or something, there's going to be places where Charlotte is more expensive to live in. But if you type in any larger metropolitan area, in terms of cost of living, Charlotte, North Carolina is typically going to be lower, which you can make the same amount and have a very different lifestyle living here. So take a look at payscale.com, hop on redfin.com and type in the city that you are currently living in, or if you're comparing two cities, they're two really good tools to use. Take a look at it right now. Our median home price here in Charlotte is right at that $368 price point, which again is lower than your average cost of living in many other areas. So you've got your jobs, you've got your opportunities, you've got your cost of living, you've got your transportation, your climate. For starters, climate is huge here. We don't get too many below freezing days. We don't really get too many snow days. We've actually had this will be the second consecutive year that Charlotte has had 0 snow days, and it's just early February right now. They're not really calling for it. So we're almost at the end of our winter season here. So if you're somebody who likes the seasons, and you probably hear this a lot, I know I do, and it's almost like cliche to say, but it is so true. I just spent a week up north in West Burlington, Iowa. And y'all, that snow was unlike anything we had like 2 feet of snow, and it really gave me a different look into a lifestyle that Charlotte provides us. So again, we went through the entire winter without having any snow. And for some people that's a negative. It is really pretty to see a couple days of just like some light flurries, and it'll stay for a little bit. But with that comes, with snow comes along with a more challenging lifestyle, having to get booted up and suited up to go to your car, and having to let your cars warm up, and you got snow days, and you've got, work from home days, and all these other things that go with it. So you don't have to worry about that here in Charlotte. We do get rain. We've had a relatively rainy winter so far this year. So you do get really pretty spring. Spring in Charlotte is my favorite. When you start driving down the streets and you see all the cherry blossom trees in bloom and everything, it really is it's so pretty. It's green. It's just very lush and bright and colorful. You get more sunny days than not here. And, you don't get a ton of hurricanes. Really, you don't get many hurricanes. I know they did get hit here a while ago, like a long time ago. You do get the bands, like the outer skirts bands. If Florida's having a hurricane or South Carolina gets hit, you're going to get some storms, but not the extremes. We really don't get tornadoes. We always have earthquakes. We don't get the harsh winters. Summers can be hot here, I will let you know. It does actually some days get more humid than like the Florida temperatures would be. But they're shorter lived, where Florida might have like 6 months of just high intense heat and humidity. It might be 4 months here. So summers do get hot and humid here. So if you are not a hot and humid summer person, this might not be the place for you. But if you don't like extremes one way or the other, Charlotte is perfect. You get fall, you get spring, you get summer, and you do get winter. And none of them are extremely harsh. So the climate here is honestly, it's incredible. And then you've got truly everything. So we talked about traveling on a plane, but you can also travel to the beach within under 3 hours. We've got Myrtle Beach, we have Charleston Beach, we've got the Outer Banks are a little bit further of a drive. It depends on where you want to go. You can get there in about like 5 to 7 hours. Depends on what part of the Outer Banks you want to go to. You can get to Wilmington in 4 hours. You can get to Savannah, Georgia in about 3 hours. So you've got a ton of beach options, right? And then you've got the mountains just 2 hours away. You can go to Asheville, or you can go to Cashiers, or you can go to the Blue Ridge Mountains. I mean, honestly, the options are just endless. So if you're really big into the outdoor activities, you can go hiking here. We have Crowder's Mountain just 30 minutes away from like the heart of Charlotte. We also have a ton of, Charlotte itself has a lot of walking trails. Mecklenburg County has over 52 miles of what we call greenway trails here. They are just trails, they're maintained by the city, and they connect. They're like off the main roads, they'll go under some bridges and stuff, so you're safe from cars. It's really pedestrian friendly, whether you're biking or walking or skating. We've got the Whitewater Center here, paddleboarding, ropes courses, rock climbing. We've got 2 lakes. If you want lake life, let's talk about that. Oh my gosh, lake life. So we hear a lot about Charlotte being city life, but you sometimes don't ever hear about like the lake life that Charlotte offers. So you've got 3 lakes here. We've got Lake Norman, which is up north, just north of the Charlotte city limits. You've got Mountain Island Lake, which is just literally, it attaches to Lake Norman, but it's just south. This is a private lake, not really private, but it doesn't have like a public lake access. You have to kind of go into one of the neighborhoods to do it. They do attach, like Norman does attach to Mountain Island Lake, but you cannot, it gets too skinny and too shallow, so you can't take, there's also a dam there, so you can't take a boat through it to one lake to the other. And then down south, we've got Lake Wylie. So Lake Wylie's down south, and you got Mountain Island Lake in the middle, and then you've got Lake Norman up north. So you can have the water sports from the lake life here if you want it. Your real estate and your price tag in these areas are going to be a bit higher if you want to live on the lake. They have a ton of lakefront property up there where you can buy residential real estate. They're gorgeous. Now for lakefront property, you are going to be $1 million and above. So the price tags are a bit heftier, but if you don't necessarily want to live on the lake, you can go south into areas like Huntersville, which is a great suburb of Lake Norman, where their average price point is sitting right at the 4s right now. So you can still get an affordable home that is close to the lake. So you can still get a boat if you want. They have parks that are lakefront up there. You can go fishing, you can go kayaking, paddleboarding, whatever you want is up there. Lake Norman is pretty similar on the price tag. It's a little cheaper than Lake Norman if you want to live on the lake. There's just not as many residential parts down there. So you've got a ton of options. Like you still get the lake sports. Lake Norman and Lake Wylie are huge for water sports during the summer, or if you just want to take a pontoon boat out there and boat around and have fun. So you've got your city life, you've got your concerts and your museums. You have Mint Museum and Discovery Place. We constantly have concerts here. We've got Comedy Zone for stand-up comedians. We have, oh my gosh, the city life just goes on and on. We have sporting events. We've got a ton of professional sports teams here. We've got the Carolina Panthers for football. We have the Hornets for basketball. We've got the Charlotte Knights for baseball, which this baseball stadium is one of my favorites. It's right in the middle of uptown, and you have a beautiful view. So if you do like a nighttime game, you get to see the skyline all lit up. It really is gorgeous. Charlotte does have a really pretty skyline. You've got the Checkers for hockey. We do have the Charlotte FC team. That's our newest team here in Charlotte. It's a soccer team. So if you're really big into sports, you've got that. You have concerts and tons of restaurants. Our restaurant and our food scene in Charlotte is huge. We are probably catching, so if you're familiar with North Carolina at all and you like breweries, Asheville is probably somewhere that you've heard of or you've read about before. We're probably giving Asheville a run for its money right now. So if you like breweries, they're here, and they're very dog friendly and family friendly. So it's not just an activity just for like young professionals or older adults. It really is like, it's so versatile and so welcoming to everybody. You've got fine dining. We've got some of the best steakhouses. We have Steak 48. We've got Beef and Bottle, which is a Charlotte local. STX, I think, is a new one that just opened, but we've got Epic Chop House. We have some really good seafood places here, which being not on the coast is really hard to find. So we've got Sea Level, and we've got Waterman's Fish Bar, and I mean, we just have so many. We've got a restaurant called Counter they've won James Beard Awards. I mean, you name it. Like Charlotte has every food type that you can possibly imagine, from large dining halls to upscale dining to hole-in-the-wall bars that have been Charlotte locals' favorite. So if you're a foodie, if you are, big into beer, or we even have some distilleries here. If you're outdoor adventurous or enthusiast, if you like culture and music and concerts, I mean, you name it, there really is something here for everyone. Now, let's talk a little bit more about lifestyle and what that looks like. What I have found is why Charlotte has something for everyone. We kind of don't leave our bubble. Let me explain what I mean by that. The more people I talk to, It's like we live over in a neighborhood called Madison Park. And right here, there's a wine bar walkable to us. There is a light rail, which is a public trolley. It's like a train that goes from South Charlotte all up to the university area. There's a light rail station right by us that can take us into Uptown if we want to go to a sporting event. There's great restaurants, there's great shopping, there's boutique shopping, there's quick pickup and takeout foods, there's fine dining next to us. So we don't ever need to leave our area. And that can be true no matter where you're at. So if you're over in Noda, people oftentimes don't leave Noda because everything you want is there. If you're up in Huntersville, it's a suburb of Charlotte, you oftentimes don't need to leave Huntersville. So you really don't need to leave your bubble if you don't want to. You don't have to. But let's talk a bit more about what that looks like. So if you're coming from a larger city and you love that urban lifestyle, let's say Chicago or Boston, for example, and you love that walkability, you love being able to have everything just when like a 5-minute walk to you, just go right downstairs and there's like a restaurant below you or something, your options are not going to be a ton, right? So we only have a handful of neighborhoods that are walkable like that. You've got Plaza Midwood, Noda, Villa Heights is over in that area as well. It's not like it used to be, I promise. And you've got South End. So those are going to be your main walkability factors and areas of Charlotte. Charlotte is a car dependent city. So I know a few couples that live in the area that they will have one car. Those electric bikes have become really big over here. So if you both work remotely from home, that might work out for you. Most people that live in Charlotte though do require to have at least one car. More frequently 2 cars if it's a couple. So that is probably a big adjustment if you're coming from a larger kind of northern city, a little bit more urban feeling. But with that said, you do have that urban kind of feel where you get more local restaurants, you get more variety, and you kind of stay in that close-knit bubble as one aspect. Now, if you love suburbia kind of feeling where you just need your, like, you need your Target and you need your grocery store and you need your pharmacy and you need your kids' school and then you need the sports field to be right in the middle of all that so you can drop your kids off and pick them up, and you know, your office is just right down the road. Like if you need that kind of lifestyle where you're like in the suburbs, you have these large neighborhoods and you've got a swimming pool and a clubhouse, you're going to find yourself likely living in northern Charlotte, Huntersville, or even down in Ballantyne and below. Those are more of the suburbia feeling type neighborhoods, larger houses, family-friendly areas. Most communities will have a pool. So you've got that really tight-knit sense of community in those areas. So you've got the urban, you've got uptown living. Obviously, uptown is broken into 4 quarters. It's called the 4 wards. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th ward. All of these wards are very walkable. You're going to find yourself living in a condo or an apartment here. You know, they're going to be high-rise units, not some townhouses where it might be like a standalone build, you know, a single building that might be 3 stories high, but most of them are going to be condos or apartments kind of thing, not really many single-family homes in the area. But again, if you like that uptown life, you know, where you're surrounded by high-rises and you literally go right downstairs in the lobby of your building and you've got restaurants and stuff. So you've got city life, urban life, suburban life. You can go a little bit further out to like Mooresville or Denver or even Rock Hill, which are just 30, 40 minutes away from Charlotte, depending on where you're at. And you have a little bit more rural feeling. So honestly, no matter what lifestyle you want, you can get it here in Charlotte or on the outskirts of Charlotte. Let me just highlight really quickly, let me touch base on that, is the suburbs of Charlotte. You know, oftentimes when you're looking at where to live in Charlotte, all these different names will pop up, like Fort Mill or Rock Hill or Huntersville or Matthews, or like, I thought I was looking in Charlotte, right? You'll see this is Charlotte right here. You'll see that it's the outskirts of Charlotte. It's in the circle. The 485 loop is kind of what we consider inside Charlotte. If you look around the outskirts of it, where you see Weddington, Matthews, Indian Trail, Mint Hill, Belmont, Huntersville, those are all the suburbs of Charlotte. So don't worry, you're not going too far when they're kind of directing you to all these places. They're all part of the suburbs of Charlotte and not far from the Charlotte amenities, I promise. So you can have whatever type of lifestyle you want here in Charlotte. Another thing that I get asked an awful lot about when people are relocating here is the education system and the schools. So as a realtor, I can't really guide you based on schools or talk to you a ton about what makes them up, but I can give you a few resources. Greatschools.org is my go-to site. Also niche.com talks a lot about the education system and schooling. But I can tell you, if take a look at those schools and pop in your address to greatschools.org and take a look at the schools that are associated in that community or a certain home if you're looking for it. Overall, you're going to find that Mecklenburg schools will have lower ratings than the surrounding areas. So if you do have children and that is really important to you, you might actually find yourselves living on the outskirts of Charlotte, but don't worry, even if you're on the outskirts of Charlotte, you're still not really far from it. Some of the top rated schools in the area are down in the Ballantyne area, such as Audrey Kell or Community House Road. Myers Park is a top rated school here in Mecklenburg County, but a lot of times you'll find yourselves down looking in South Carolina or up in Huntersville for better or higher rated schools. With that said, Charlotte inside Mecklenburg County does have a lot of Montessori schools or private schools, which a lot of Charlotte residents take advantage of. So if that's something important to you, definitely talk to your agent, definitely research those schools, go on those websites, and take a look at what's important to you guys, because it is particular and individual for every particular family. We have colleges here. We've got UNCC Charlotte, which is in the north quadrant of Charlotte. We've got Davidson College, a private liberal arts school known for Steph Curry, I believe. That is a basketball, but that put Davidson on the map, and Davidson is such a cute town, guys. We also have Belmont Abbey College, which is a liberal arts school. We've got a college down in Rock Hill. We just have a ton of education systems here, so definitely take a look into those if that's something that you're looking for. If you have kids like looking for in-state tuition or something, take a look at all the options down there. So Charlotte's just an amazing place to live, and the people here are so friendly. We found it so easy to meet people here versus living up north. We found it quite hard to meet people. And it's probably because the weather is one thing. More people are out and about constantly. I have a lot of transplants that are from Charlotte or that are not from Charlotte, so you automatically have something in common with them. So I'm gonna drop my free relocation guide here in the comments. If you'd like it, please click on it, take a look at the PDF. Reach out to us for more questions. We have a list of resources that can make your move just a little bit easier. My team and I are ready, and we've been through it, so we know the challenges that come along with relocating to Charlotte. I hope you find this helpful. Again, drop your questions and thoughts below in the comments. If you have any questions, reach out. We'd love to talk to you.